Ross Tucker, CBS Westwood One color analyst, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. What options do you think the NFL had with Calvin Ridley, Ross?
Not many, Dan. I mean, it's something that they talk about often, even back when I played, when it wasn't legal in the United States to bet on NFL games. It's all over the locker room. I mean, both in the stadium and at the practice facility. One of the first things they tell you at the start of training camp every year, they are very clear that you can, not only can you not bet on NFL games, you can't be associated with people that bet on NFL games. They know that you can't be giving your buddies tips and things like that. I think they had to suspend him for a year. I think they did the right thing.
But can you see, I'm trying to see his side of things. So when he does his appeal, and I guess he's got 3 days to do that, is there any wiggle room, do you think, for him to say, look, I wasn't playing. I didn't go to a bookie. I didn't bet against my team. I only bet $1,500. I wasn't trying to hide. Can you see the commissioner listening to this going, okay, I'm going to change your suspension?
You know what's interesting about that, Dan? It seems like over the years that if you're honest with Goodell, that goes a long way with him. Now, I got to be honest with you, I'm not sure who exactly hears the appeal. So I'd be curious to see who that is. If it does go to the commissioner because it's discipline, it would go to Goodell. And if people are just open with him and forthright, that does seem to give him a little bit of leniency. I just think with the explosion of legalized sports betting in the United States, it's going to be tough for them to reduce this punishment. I think that they feel like they need to send a very strong message to the other 2,000 NFL players.
Gambling come up when you play?
You know what's funny, Dan? The only 2 times it ever came up were my first game in college and my last game in the NFL, if you can believe that. I'll never forget, Dan, I'm 18 years old. I'm playing for Princeton. We're playing Cornell. I'm a freshman. It's the season opener. I'm on the punt team and the field goal extra point team. And I don't know why, but maybe it's probably for the Wall Street guys. But back then they would have the Ivy League lines would be in the newspaper. And this is 1997. My dad calls me that week, Dan, and he says, hey, Ross, if I give you a signal in the fourth quarter, let Cornell block the punt. And obviously he was joking, but it was kind of crazy to think I'm 18. I just had the prom 3 months ago, and there are people actually wagering money on this. Like, what if I tripped or missed this block? It was kind of an eye-opening thing. My dad was joking, but it was still funny. And then the last one, Dan, is unbelievable. My career ended with a neck injury against the Ravens for Washington in 2007. So I'm on injured reserve, okay, which means you get paid for the whole year. But I knew I was retiring. I knew I had herniated disc in my neck and bruised my spinal cord. I knew I was done. So I didn't go to any games or anything, but you get paid. So picture this, Dan. It's week 17, last week of the regular season. My wife and I and all my high school buddies, we go to my one buddy's house in Charleston, South Carolina. It's New Year's Eve. We're going to have a big night. And the Cowboys are playing Washington. If Washington wins, they make the playoffs. If they lose, they're out. So if Washington wins, I get $18,000. So it's about 30 minutes until the game starts. And I tell my buddies, and now remember, I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania. I tell my buddies, hey, if Washington wins, I get $18,000. 3 of them pick up their phone. They're like, let me call my bookie. You got to put $9,000 on the Cowboys right now. You got to hedge. You got to put $9,000 on the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. That's illegal. I'm not doing that. I will say this, though, Dan. Watching a football game where you have $18,000 riding on it, having beers with your buddies, I have never been more into a football game in my whole life. I mean, it was unbelievable. Washington won. We made the playoffs. I knew I was getting the 18 grand. I paid for everything that night for New Year's Eve. It was epic.
We're talking to Ross Tucker, the meathead, James Vanderbeek. By the way, James Vanderbeek turns 45 today. The actual James Vanderbeek. You turned 43 last Wednesday, so I don't know if you've ever crossed paths with the actor James Vanderbeek. You could play his little brother in a movie.
Well, little but bigger brother.
Yeah.
No, we haven't crossed paths. One time when I was filling in for you, Fritzy got him booked, and then he canceled it. And I think it's because of what I said about him on the show. I think on the show we were talking about Dawson's Creek, and I just thought he was a little bit too soft on Dawson's Creek, okay? Or even, to be honest with you, I thought his priorities were all screwed up on in that movie.
Well, wait, what's softer? Acting in Dawson's Creek or watching Dawson's Creek?
Oh, I watched Dawson's Creek every episode. I would get together with the girls in college. It was me and like 12 girls watching Dawson's Creek. It was amazing. But in Dawson's Creek, he was always like, "Oh, Joey, why don't you love me?" So I didn't like that. And then Varsity Blues, he's starting high school football in West Texas, and he's caring about academics and trying to get into Brown. He needs to focus on what matters. And and the girl with the whipped cream comes in, and he does nothing with it. She's got she's only wearing whipped cream. He does nothing. I am convinced Vanderbeek heard me talking crap on his characters on your show and canceled on Fritzy as a result.
And those are all fair points. Was it Ali Larder?
I like how you say it like you don't know.
Yeah. The whipped cream girl. All right, we have a Aaron Rodgers bet. Where Aaron is going to end up. You got to decide today. Where does Aaron Rodgers stay, go? Broncos, Steelers, Titans, retirement, other?
Yeah, man. I'm going to ultimately say Green Bay.
Okay.
I think my hesitation is because if it was Green Bay, you would think that he would have already said that by now. But there's been enough talk I've seen of LaFleur meeting with Aaron Rodgers' agent and David Dunn, his agent, talking with Russ Ball from the Packers. I guess I don't understand why your agent would be spending that much time talking contract with the team if you were planning to leave. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And I think all these reports about him being torn or whatever are just a way to get more favorable contract terms or more money or more leverage, whatever he's looking for. I don't know. I'm going to say he stays in Green Bay.
Yeah, it feels like they're giving him everything that he wants. They're bringing back his old quarterback coach, Tom Clements. It felt like Green Bay is going to release this information of, hey, this is sources. This is going to change the quarterbacking market salary-wise. That doesn't get out unless you feel like maybe Aaron is not going to come back and we did everything we could to keep him.
It's a fair point. It feels like most of the reports that have come out have been from the Packers side. It's not like Aaron Rodgers' camp would be leaking that, he's been offered $50 million or they're going to make him the highest paid guy. That doesn't really help Aaron's image if the belief is that this is about money. I think most people want to believe, at least, that this is not about money. It's about him going where he has the best chance to win the Super Bowl, which, by the way, I don't know how you argue that that's Denver over Green Bay. I think that's a tough argument to make, especially in the AFC over the NFC. I just think he's having a tough time realizing what Brady did last year, what Stafford did this year, and not thinking that maybe he also needs that change of scenery to get another one.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point as well. We have a draft bet, quarterback draft bet. We haven't talked to you since we made it. Paulie has a bet that he thinks a quarterback goes in the first 13 picks this year. And the over-under is set at 13.5. Are you with Paulie? First 13 picks, we have a quarterback selected, or are you going to take the over?
I'm with Paulie. I'm going to go the under on that. I think, it's tough, obviously, because we haven't gotten to free agency yet or seen what happened with any type of trade market. But I think Washington ends up taking a quarterback at 11 if they don't get a guy. And I don't know that they're going to get somebody else. I mean, there's just not that many guys available. And Washington has evidently called everybody already. Literally, they called the Chiefs about Mahomes, which is amazing. That would be great content, by the way, to have that conversation be videoed when they ask if Mahomes is available for trade.
Yeah.
I just don't know that Washington's going to be able to get a veteran that they're happy with. And I think at 11, they'll probably end up taking one of these kids. So I'll go with Paulie on the under.
You were joking about Kenny Pickett's small hands and the fact that, he played outdoors, played in Pittsburgh. How did that go over on Twitter?
Dan, it is remarkable how much people cannot sense sarcasm on Twitter. I mean,
but
I
can
guess
we come
on some
out
level,
with, Ross, how about sarcasm font? Like, that if you write it this way in cursive or whatever, that you mean to be sarcastic.
Yeah, but that kind of ruins the fun. For a while, I literally, for people that didn't see it, my Twitter is at Ross Tucker NFL, and I said Kenny Pickett's hands are way too small for him to be able to play in a cold weather NFL city like Pittsburgh. Knowing, by the way, I live in Pennsylvania. I'm from Pennsylvania. I know Kenny Pickett was just at Pitt the last 5 years. It's a joke. I've gone full spectrum on this, Dan. For a while, I thought it was funny that people were just this dense and that they didn't get the joke. But now it's actually a poor reflection on me. These people either don't know who I am or they think I'm that stupid. It's not funny anymore. Don't laugh, Dan. It's not funny anymore.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We actually had a hand measurement size here on the show.
I heard. I can't believe Marvin has the smallest hands.
Yeah, Marvin's like 6'2", probably 220, and he has very, very small, delicate hands.
I'm shocked. Guess what? This is going to surprise you. I don't have very big hands either. I think I used to wear an XL glove because when you're wearing gloves as a lineman or really any player, you want it to be as tight as possible. You almost want it to be painted on. You don't want there to be any extra fabric at all because you want to feel like you're not wearing gloves, even though you are. I actually have short arms and small hands. Those are my two worst qualities. But I have a huge head and a crazy torso. I'm basically like a real life Mr. Potato Head. It just doesn't make sense. Watch. Look how big my head is.
Yeah.
Now I can't put it watch. My head is way bigger than my hand.
Yes.
Look at that.
Yes, it is.
Way bigger than my face.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I don't have and it was an issue. If I will say this, if the weather wasn't good and I was playing center in Buffalo or New England, it's not easy. It's not easy to grip the ball. There is something to that.
Yeah, we don't make a big deal out of wide receivers' hands or the center's hands, but we do make a big deal out of the quarterback's hands.
It's an issue for centers, not as much of one as quarterbacks. Obviously, you're not controlling the ball. You're not throwing the ball. Dan, by the way, you should see that tweet. People hit me back with the exact temperature of every game he played for in Pittsburgh. People were telling me that there was 4 games the Steelers played after Pitt's last game in December and January where the temperatures fell below. People take this stuff. We realize this is football, right? This is fun. He's a good quarterback. People take some of this stuff way, way too seriously.
That's why we love having you on, Ross. Thanks for joining us as always.
Of course. See you guys.
That's Meathead James Vanderbeek, Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Also, Even Money Podcast. You can find him on social media at Ross Tucker NFL.